So I am Sam Gaynes. Again, appreciate you joining, and we'll go ahead and jump into it. We'll have some question Q&A session at the end, but got a awesome little slide deck prepared for you here, and we've done a lot of research to really put this all together. So the goals for today, what I'd love to accomplish is patients are searching for new doctors all the time. And we'll cover 3 different searches that the patients do and kind of what they see when they do these types of searches. Google is dominating the landscape. It accounts for over 90% of the searches today and over 95% on mobile. So we'll show you what patients are searching for specifically, how often these are happening, and what your patients and Google's algorithm value the most. Patients oftentimes, and more than you think, find new doctors via Google. So it's a way in which we can help you create a lot of additional brand awareness for the practice, for the providers. And again, no matter how a patient heard about the provider, they're often going to look them up online. So want to give you a good grasp of how to leverage your Google My Business listings to grow the practice and to attract and acquire more patients. And then essentially we'll walk through the 7 thematic factors that go into Google's algorithm. So Google My Business and online reputation management, it can oftentimes, they go hand in hand, and online reputation management can oftentimes seem overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. I put wrangling here, and this because I was in it late at night. It meant herding cats. Essentially, you make a change to Google My Business, it goes the other way. And online reputation management can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So when we talk with folks, it's what are your goals? What are you looking to accomplish? And we'll try and help you find the best fit. We hope that's right or 8, but it might not be. Claiming and updating your listings is one of Google's main methods for determining whether it can trust your quote unquote business or not. So by showing them that you've claimed those profiles and gone through the process and that they are complete, that gives you a lot more weight in Google's algorithm. So a really great place to start in terms of just taking hold of your online reputation. And just an interesting little statistic here, the average online rating for a doctor in this country is a 3.6, and the average in our platform and online for our physicians that work with us is a 4.86. So most of the patients are really happy. We just need to make it really easy for them to share their story. And I'll show you how the reviews play into your ranking on Google and Google My Business in the local pack as well as in direct searches. Why is this important? A couple additional statistics here if you weren't already convinced. 77% of patients research online reviews before booking an appointment, and 70% will look at multiple review sites. So we often say that patients will go where there is the most information and the worst information. We want to make the most information Google because it's so prominent, and we want to polish any red flags that appear on the first page. Another joke that we make here is that second page of search results is where you could bury a dead body. Just kind of going to show you that very rarely are people making it to that second page because Google has gotten so good with their algorithms of providing patients the information that they're looking for. 85% of patients trust online reviews as much as personal recommendations. This is a stat that's becoming, I think, very popular. I see it around all the time. And it's true. And even if a patient is referred from a friend or a family member, they're often going online to look them up or will just see their reviews when looking them up to try and call and book an appointment. Since 2017, there's been a 621% increase in patients' use of social media to find physicians. So massive shift there. And I know that we work with some doctors that are leveraging social media channels, and we try and have ways in which to link that to our platform and help drive more traffic to those pages as well. This one was really insightful to us when we did an analysis across our clients to see on their Google My Business listings for both the providers and the locations, how many views were those getting compared to that of the homepage of their website, the physician's bio pages, and all their location pages. And when averaging them out, about 7.7 times more views on the Google My Business listings than all those pages of their website. So we can make the argument that Google is your new homepage. It's ubiquitous. It's a trusted brand. People know it. And if you're willing to spend X amount on your website, multiply that by 7.7x, and that it could justify your spend on online reputation management. Just kidding. I don't think it'll be that expensive, but it is very important. And I want to just make that point conveyed here. The average patient will read 10 reviews before trusting the rating, and only 60% would consider going to a doctor with less than 4 stars. So just goes to show you, patients, all they really have to rely on is the information that they find online, potentially a referral from a friend or a primary care physician, but they trust these online reviews just as much as those personal recommendations, and they don't know how good a surgeon's hands are or how, whatever type of physician they might be. All they really have is this subjective feedback from patients. How patients find you online. There's a couple different searches. There we go. Couple different searches. 2 of them can be tied together, the practice name and the doctor's name. Those would be 2 direct searches. So I'm either searching specifically for the doctor or specifically for the practice, excuse me, or one of the locations. And in that search, I'm obviously familiar with the practice or provider. I'm looking to get more information, looking to feel more confident that they're the best choice for me. And the goal is to, as many, hopefully convert on all of those potential referrals that we're getting. And the last search is a local search. And so in this situation, the patient has no idea who they're looking for, and they are just doing a orthopedic surgeon near me or cardiologist near me, dentist near me, whatever that may be. These near me searches have increased over 900% the last 2 years. So pretty much type anything into Google these days. Typically it's Italian restaurants for me, but same goes for an orthopedic surgeon. Recommends near me, you do that, and it'll spit out what's called the Google 3-pack or the local pack. And we'll show you that here in a second. Jumping in and just showing you the practice name and an example of the doctor name searches. So practice name search on mobile and doctor name search on the desktop. So again, Google accounting for 90% of the searches. More times than not, this is the patient's first impression. And we want to make sure that we're making a positive first impression. And let me change this over. I've always wanted to use this. Okay. We want to make sure that we're making a positive first impression. So awesome star rating, 5.0 perfect, 229 reviews, a lot of information there for a patient to just read feedback from other former or current patients. And then you'll notice that we've got a category here. So that's perfect. He is a hand surgeon. There's a lot of additional information here. We've got the correct phone number, address. They've added some COVID-19 info. All of this important in Google's algorithm. I talked a little bit earlier about that completeness. So anything that you can complete in there, do, and we'll get into a little bit more of the details here in a moment. You'll notice that Google will often consume reviews from around the web. So a couple of different review sites being taken up here. And then anything on the left-hand side, which would be the organic search results that has this star rating and number of reviews, that catches my attention as a patient. So I see this reviews.rater8 with 2,037 votes. I might be inclined to click on that, talk about going where the most and the worst information is. And then vitals 4.9214. So Dr. Telsania has been with us a long time. We've been able to pollinate his listings very evenly and effectively and build a really well-rounded online image. If we were to do the search on the phone, whether that is for a practice location or a provider, that Google My Business listing is now taking up the entire real estate. So we have to scroll to see other sites like Health Grades, Vitals, Facebook, etc. And over 95% of the searches in the US are done on mobile. So it just makes it that much more important to me, making sure that we have a handle on these Google listings and they're optimized and we're building reviews there. The next search is this local category search. So this is at a crucial decision point for the patient. Imagine I just moved to Allentown, Pennsylvania, and I hurt my wrist. I need to see a hand surgeon. I don't know anyone, no one to give me a referral. Potentially look on my insurance carrier's website, but I just do a hand surgeon near Allentown, Pennsylvania. I'm not there, so I just did Allentown, Pennsylvania. If I was there, I would just do near me. And what Google does is they populate the screen with what's called the local pack or the Google 3-pack. So there's a lot of different factors that go into this, and that's what we're going to talk about here today. What makes a listing appear in this 3-pack, and how do we increase our chances of that and not only appear in there, but also outshine the competition and become that clear choice for patients. These 3 listings do get about 90% of the clicks and the actions here, and you can track all those actions on the Google My Business Insights console. So we have some clients where a large orthopedic practice, a million views across their Google listings each year. 70% of those, however, are coming from these local category searches. That's creating a lot of additional brand awareness for them, and it's some of the best free marketing out there. Okay, I think we're ready to jump into the thematic factors. The last thing I'll mention here before moving on is you'll notice it's pulling right here in the mobile search from patient comments. So you'll see sometimes, depending on what the patient is searching for and what they've typed in specifically, it can pull from the patient comments. So if I were to type in best orthopedic surgeon and that patient, Dr. Telsani is the best, that might trigger it. So essentially, the more reviews that we build on a listing, the more likely it is to show up in a search. And then it will often also pull from the website. So it can say the website mentions best orthopedic surgeons in Pennsylvania. So 2 things to keep in mind, both the reviews will add some SEO authority behind your Google listings, and Google is also looking at the SEO on your website. Okay. That works perfect. Okay. So here they are, the 7 thematic areas in which Google uses in their algorithm to essentially decide who is going to appear in that 3-pack. Now, just to be clear here, Google doesn't make this algorithm known or public. There are companies out there that do extensive research looking at thousands of listings and talking with thousands of marketers to understand what the factors are and what makes a practice or a business or a provider appear in this 3-pack. And then we're also going to talk a little bit about how it's changed over time. And it has drastically changed. So we have the biggest category here, Google My Business. And we'll talk about all these individually. Reviews being the second biggest. On-page signals would be on-page SEO, things of that nature. Links would be other websites pointing at yours via what is called maybe a backlink. Behavioral would be how a patient or individual is interacting with your Google My Business listing. Are they clicking on, to view your website? Are they clicking to read more reviews? Citations, this one used to be a really important one, and it's kind of been a steady decline since. So there are companies that have their entire business model based around citations, and while it is important for that, basically it's called name, address, phone number, NAP consistency, Google's really created this ecosystem that, since so many of these profiles are out there and claimed and folks are building reviews on them, they're able to trust the data that is within them a lot more than they were maybe five or so years ago. At that point, it made sense to look at 70 different aggregators. And if we found the same phone number and address on all those sites, we could then with confidence say that the one on this Google listing is the correct address. So we'll talk more about citations here. And then last is personalization. And this is just kind of custom to you. So you and I could be sitting in the same room doing the same exact search, and that might yield different results just based off of our search histories and cookies and ad personalization, etc. Okay. Okay. So the Google My Business is going to be our first category here. And the Google My Business signals, essentially what they're looking for, proximity is first and foremost. It's the most important. And we have to keep in mind that Google wasn't necessarily made for healthcare organizations or doctors. And that's clear in a situation where we have doctors that practice at 3 locations and just, and I think that's a good thing that they have 3 listings, but just Google My Business with their postcard process. If you've ever had the fun job of claiming or cleaning up listings, it can sometimes be like herding cats. So proximity is really important. It's going to try and recommend the most close and fitting business within your search terms. Primary Google My Business category is also one of the main and most important factors. So for this listing, as an example, Raleigh Orthopedic Clinic, you'll notice they have orthopedic clinic as their category. Now they might have multiple categories as well, and you'll notice additional GMB categories here is another factor. So I believe you're able to add up to 10, and you just want to make sure that they're relevant. But there are some, I found that there are some specialties that they don't have great categories for. Continue to check back. They're constantly adding new ones, and it's always nice to just keep the page fresh and updated every once in a while, even if it's just a minor tweak or change. Keywords in the business title. So I circled orthopedic clinic and then the category orthopedic clinic. So this is another really big one, and sometimes people rank it as one of the most important factors. And so while it is against Google's best practices to, if you are a practice with more than one physician, to have the practice name in the title right here. So let's say it was Raleigh Orthopedic Clinic, Sam Gaynes, MD. That would be against their best practices if there were other physicians at the practice. But I have seen practices do it because it is such an important ranking factor. So just something to keep in mind. Again, against best practices, but it's kind of a tip or trick there. And then physical address and city of search. This was a good example because you'll notice that it says orthopedic clinic in Wake County, North Carolina, and the address is Raleigh, North Carolina. So sometimes there's just difference. One's a postal address, one's a mailing address. Removal of erroneous and spam listings. This is becoming important to Google because there are a lot of listings out there that are unclaimed. They were created erroneously and no one's managing them. The provider might have a listing, and is just ignoring this one. So we want to make sure that we can try and just, if the doctor's no longer there, we've moved locations, that we try and close that listing, and that's going to help us just all around. I imagine that they might link Google My Business profiles for physicians at the same practice and kind of weight based off of things like that as well. And the last component here is verified and complete. Again, it's really important to have a verified profile so that you can actually edit it and make changes to it, as well as respond to reviews, respond to questions that are asked, and you can do posts on these listings as well now. So they're really making it more of this engaging platform rather than just review us. It's kind of a way in which create more of a community around it. Thing that I wanted to mention is just updating the categories. Okay, perfect. So Google My Business signals, very important and are most important. The second most important are review signals. And review signals mean review quantity, so the number of reviews, quality, the star rating of those reviews, velocity is the speed of those reviews. And we know that recency is really important. I'll oftentimes see, this isn't sorted by newest, I actually have a tag here, but you'll see a listing that's very well built up, and then you go click on newest, and the last one was left 2 or 3 months ago. There are studies that tell us patients don't put as much weight into reviews left over 3 months ago. And so we want to make sure that we have that nice steady stream, not only for patient perception, but also for the local ranking. As we can see, it's a factor here. Review diversity. So Google, as much as they love Google and want to keep the patients in their ecosystem, they are also looking at other third-party sites and the reviews on those as a ranking factor here. If you've just focused on Google, but you've neglected every other site, that will hurt you in the ranking. So it's important to bring up any of those red flags that might appear around the web and find a vendor that can help you polish that online image and not just build location Google reviews. We want to build them for the doctor, and we want to focus on third-party sites like Health Grades, Vitals, WebMD, Facebook, etc. for physicians. Last one here is keywords in the native Google reviews. And this is, the picture is the example of that. So got a great Google listing here. I clicked in and Google does some auto tagging here. So this is Dr. Ranka is a pediatric ophthalmologist, and there are 6 patient comments that mention the word eye doctor. So if I was a patient searching maybe pediatric eye doctor, Dr. Ranka's listing would likely show up because he's got 6 of these comments, and you can see where they bold that eye doctor term or few words. So again, adding, as we build more reviews, it adds more SEO authority to that listing, and more, the higher the likelihood that it will come up in different, not only in the local 3-pack of, pediatric ophthalmologist near me, but also if I was doing, eye surgeon near me or eye doctor near me. The next is on-page signals. So a little bit different. This is now moving to your practice website. And what they're looking for here is the prominence of NAP, which is name, address, and phone number. So we want to make sure that that is consistent on your website and on your Google My Business listing. And I found an example here, and this is fairly common. So maybe go double check yours after. We'll also talk about an offering that we have, and we'll kind of help you do a deep dive little analysis on ranking and your Google My Business listings. But you'll see that Suite 220 is spelled out here, and then we've just got pound 220 here. So we want to make it as easy as possible for Google to associate the two together. And I'm sure they're smart and can figure that out. But again, just the consistency is important. Keyword in the title, that is on the website. So, having, like I mentioned earlier, best orthopedic surgeon, if a patient's searching for that, it can often pull from the website. So having different titles, SEO on page is all important. And then domain authority. This is complex, and if you think about your health system close to you or an academic institution, their website's going to have a lot of authority. It has a lot of links pointing at it, a lot of visitors coming each month. So just different ways in which we can kind of work with this domain authority, create backlinks. I'll actually show you that here on the next slide as well. Link signals. So link signals are essentially the backlinks I was just referring to. So it's inbound anchor text, and then we have linking domain authority and linking domain quantity. So it's essentially the links from other websites to your website, and quality matters here too. So we don't just want some random website that was made that no one's ever visited and that has no content on it, just have a bunch of links to your website. That's not going to help much. Google's a lot smarter than that. And so having quality websites linked to yours, having your own SEO and links from one page to another is also very helpful. And you'll notice I have an example here of our verified review page, which is something that we create for each doctor that is on Rater 8, and it hosts all the comments from our internal survey. We call it a verified review page because we know that every individual comment is from a real patient. No one is able to just go onto this page and leave a review. We'll integrate with the scheduling system, and that's how we send out the surveys. And that's in contrast to, I could go leave a Google review about Dr. John Day right now, never having been a patient, and it's going to be challenging, although we could do it, to remove that. So That's what we call the verified review page. You'll notice that there are links to social medias here. So Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And then there are 2 links here. So visit the homepage or website, and then this physician's bio page. So if we have a 20 doctor practice, we have 20 of these pages created, that's going to be 40 additional backlinks. Next up, we have behavioral signals. And we talked a little bit about this earlier, just how a patient is interacting with your Google My Business listing. So if you have access and own the listings, it's pretty cool. You can go check out the Google My Business Insights. I think it's always insightful to see just how things are trending over time. If you know, if you're seeing an increase, or and if you are you doing additional marketing efforts, or where is that coming from? And you can kind of track and set goals and benchmarks and see how effective different things are. If you're working with a reputation management vendor, ideally you should see your click-through rate, your mobile click-to-call, check-ins, website visits all rise steadily. And again, available within the Google My Business Insights console. Citation Signals. This is your IYP, stands for Internet Yellow Pages, and it's the aggregator of the map consistency. So I brought Yext into this because they are the first company that I learned about that had this type of offering, and they do some additional and have additional functionality now. Great company. They essentially will take information from you in some fashion for each provider and each location, make sure that that's accurate. And then what they do is with their platform, they push it out to these aggregators and these IYP Internet Yellow Pages. And that is going to, again, the citation. So Google looks to make sure that, okay, name and address is the same across these 70 sites that we scraped in the last week. We know that that's the real phone number, real address. We feel confident that you get the points in the algorithm for this category. I want to point out, though, again, just the decline of citations. So we oftentimes hear, listing cleanup is really important, and I totally understand that, and I totally get that, especially doctors leaving or having been at old practice, it's not correct. We want to make sure that that is accurate, but I would argue that if you have a very prominent Google presence and you have all your doctors are above a 4.2 or a 4.5 on the other sites appearing on the first page, we can do a pretty good job of keeping patients within this Google Your Practice ecosystem. And also, if you work with Raterate, the Raterate ecosystem, verified review page being a way in which we can direct traffic to your physician's bio pages and your home pages. But just because of, again, the dominance and what Google is seeing in growth over the last 5 or so years, this has essentially been cut in more than half. So I would say what the experts say is focus on the big ones, your Apple Maps, Bing, Foursquare, but don't worry about those sites that you've never heard of. And if you have a limited budget, the whole goal of citations is to be appearing. It's one, if you think people are going to Foursquare, Bing to find your information, then yes, you want it to be correct on there. But an ultimate second goal of it, I guess, is to increase your chance of appearing in that local search or that Google 3-pack. And there are some other ways in which we can do that. And I would say building reviews important first, having a nice website and other marketing brand awareness efforts. So lastly, we have personalization. So personalization is search histories, keywords in the search, and unique queries. So first and foremost, just clearing my browsing data. Cookies are stored, search history. Basically, I mentioned earlier, we could do the same search in the same room and it could yield different results. I could do a search here, walk across the street, do the same search, and that also might yield different results, just showing you how important that proximity piece is. Keywords in the search, this will change pretty much everything. So if I were to do hip surgeon near me, I'll get Google will populate the screen with 3 recommendations, and I can click into view more and I'll see the rest of the listings. If I were to change that search to best, it might then change to only those listings that are above a 4.0 rating. It might pull comments from those listings where a patient has used the word best. So just little different tweaks in what the patient is searching for can affect and kind of alter the results that they receive in the 3-pack. So orthopedic surgeon versus best orthopedic surgeon versus best hip replacement surgeon, all going to yield different results. And changes over time. It's really what I was kind of most excited about. So Google has, again, grown massively. Majority of the reviews, not only in healthcare, but across other industries as well, are being left on Google. And so they're being able to rely a lot more on their own internal little ecosystem and social platform that they have. And we can tell that they're trying to make it more of a social platform by your ability to respond to reviews and do the Q&A. I believe there's even messaging now. You can do post and publish content on these listings. There's a lot that you can do and take advantage of. Google My Business used to, back in 2013, was about 20%, took a little drop. Maybe Google wasn't so confident itself, and quickly that confidence returned, and we're up 33, I think, percent here. So by far the most important category is Google My Business. So make sure you claim those listings, you optimize them and clean them up, and we'll talk about, we would love to help, maybe not work together, or what we'd love to just put together a scorecard for you and show you this is where they're at. We can hand it off to you. If it makes sense to continue the conversation and you're interested in learning about the free trial, great. If not, we're happy to be a resource for you and just share that scorecard with you. It is so important for a medical practice today. So reviews, you can see, has also been a steady increase. Not as big a jump from 2018 to 2020, but still one of the most important factors here. And on page, you can see that that is decreasing. On page SEO and ranking factors, really important for more of the organic search results. So those that would appear on the left side of the Google My Business listing, all those different, like your health grades, your vitals. On page SEO is really important for where your site is appearing in that search. Less important for Google My Business ranking. Links, you can also see, are important. They want to understand, the authority of the site, and links is a really good way for them to understand it and do that. Behavior is dropped as well. And there was also social signals back in 2018, and I think it got swallowed up by both Google My Business and reviews. But behavioral is similar. It is, again, how someone is interacting with that listing, clicking on their, looking you up on their phone, calling you, or mapping to your location, reading your reviews. Everything's being tracked and accounted for in that algorithm. Citations, see the importance here, and then the drop in 2018, and then the further decline here in 2020. So again, I definitely value in cleaning up the listings, and if you've got the money and the budget to do it, absolutely go for it. But if your goal is to really just have a dominant online presence and to be attracting more patients and appearing in that 3-pack, I think the money can be better spent elsewhere and accomplish similar or the same or better results. Personalization, we just talked about, that is based on our unique search histories and cookies that are stored. Basically, once you've taken that phone or that computer out of the box, even if you are in incognito, it is still a little bit catered to you. So something to keep in mind. I have a couple more slides here. I do want to mention though that all of these factors are relative. And so like for example, responding to reviews is important. Responding to reviews with comments is really important. I kind of view it as if a patient, if they just put a star rating, no comments, you can thank them. But if they've actually taken the time to write out a nice review for you, or, you know, in the situation, a negative review, even more so important to respond to them. I think that shows patients who are evaluating physicians and come across your listing that you're looking, that you care. And when they receive the invitation to essentially fill out a survey, they know that you're looking at it. That might make them more inclined to do so. But it's all relative. So if let's say your competitors down the street are not responding and you start responding, that's going to give you a leg up. Same goes for every one of these factors. So all relative to what those around you are doing. So that's not saying. So top 10 conversion factors. The appearing in the 3-pack doesn't necessarily mean that we're converting, right? There can be some situations in which the online presence and of maybe your practice and those around you, it just isn't that stellar. I've oftentimes done searches where there is no clear leader in a 3-pack, like we have in some of these past examples of just, you know, thousands of reviews and everyone else is a 3.5 star with maybe 10 reviews. So at that point, we'll see patients click into view more. But we really want to convert, right? We don't just want to show up. We want to show up. We want to outshine. We want to dominate, and we want to convert. Get that patient to call us, to map to our address, or to visit our website. And so these are the top 10 conversion factors out of 2020. High numerical Google ratings. So basically your number of 4 and 5 star reviews, really important. Positive sentiment in the review text. So you notice that there were some keywords in there. I think Google's doing a little bit more than what they're showing us in terms of the sentiment analysis. And it would be really cool if they would show us that, but I think they're picking up when things are positive and when things are negative, based not only on the star rating, but also just words and terms and language that are used. So reviews that have comments are definitely, any review is helpful, but the more reviews that we can get with comments, the better. The quantity of native Google reviews with text, as I just mentioned, and then proximity of address to the point of search. Again, proximity is really important, and just taking a step back from the world of healthcare, if I'm searching for coffee near me or Starbucks near me, proximity is really important, right? So Google wasn't necessarily set up for healthcare organizations, but it's something that patients are using, and we now have to kind of adopt and adapt to it. So proximity, Google My Business messaging feature is enabled. So I mentioned that this was a new feature I thought they had. Confirmed. Go ahead and enable that. Patients can then message you there. Again, they can also do Q&A. They can review you and you can respond. So all different ways in which you can interact with your patients or potential patients on the Google My Business listing. Proper hours set. I think this was also and likely became even more important in March and April of this year when things were, excuse me, temporary closed, shut down. We want to make sure that the proper hours are there. And so something I think that's easy to fix and clean up. Completeness, we talked about it earlier. You just put your feet in Google shoes for a second. Someone who has taken the time to claim, and claiming can be fun. It can be, sometimes it's really easy. Sometimes they'll offer phone verification, which is another aha moment of Google My Business not set up for healthcare because medical practices have phone trees. But we do have some workarounds. So if you're in the process of claiming listings and you're having trouble doing so, feel free to shoot me an email. My contact information will be here at the end. I'm happy to help, and I can also put you in touch with our Google My Business experts. They're awesome. So completeness is very important, and the Google My Business booking feature is enabled. Frequency of Google posts posted. So again, this is on conversion. So if they see that you are doing monthly posts on the location listings for a new doctor or a new, you just got to make a robot, or you just opened a new location, whatever it may be, announcements can be made there, and that's going to help just in the conversion of patients that find the listing becoming an actual patient at your practice. The last is the comprehensive Google Q&A section with owner-seated FAQs. So I think what they are alluding to here is to kind of seed it, and don't just wait for someone to ask a question. What are those 5 questions that are most commonly asked? Is it a little challenging to get to your your building's a little bit hidden or something like that? And that will, excuse me, that will kind of start them off. And that might also make other patients or potential patients feel more comfortable asking a question if you were to kind of start seeding that. Okay, that is it for our local rank and conversion factors. I wanted to show you quickly here a Google My Business scorecard and explain to you what we're looking at. It is essentially an almost perfect Google My Business scorecard. This is a homegrown report that we've created. And for all of our clients, it's available within the dashboard and updates every week for them. So they can track all of their listings and see the health of them. And if there are any tweaks or changes that can be made that would help improve its ranking in the algorithm. So on the left-hand side, we have all the providers as well as the locations. We give each listing a score 1 through 5. And in order to do that, we look at the average rating and number of reviews. Once this is above a 4.0 and once this is above 30, those turn green. We look at category, which we know is extremely important. Often, I will see doctor. And in that situation, you're, let's say 4.8, 48 reviews, but rather than podiatrist, he's categorized as the catch-all doctor. The DPM might help, but Google is not associating him with being a podiatrist. So it's going to make it a little harder for him to be appearing in those local 3-pack searches. And that is our ultimate goal. And then short bio description, not so much important to fill with keywords, just completeness. You can fill some keywords in there that you think might be relevant of, conditions that you treat or treatments you provide, etc. Anything that kind of sets you apart, location, training. It's a short, I think 700 character bio, and we can give you some best practices and tips around that as well. Website link, want to make sure that it links to your website. We want to make that patient journey as seamless as possible. If they find your beautiful Google listing and they don't have a button to click on to go to your website, hopefully they would just see it over there on the left-hand side in the organic search results. But if not, we're making it a little bit harder on them. We want to remove as many barriers as possible for patients to become a new patient, and then once they do, to leave a review. Office hours, perfect, all there. And then appointment link, we've got one that's a no here, just for a location, might be a little bit newer. I wanted to mention that I speak with a lot of groups and they say that they don't have an appointment link. And so this could just be a link them to the contact us page if you don't have online scheduling or something like that. More so important for completeness than it is for you having, an online scheduling portal. And that will do it. So I think it was pretty perfect timing. I would love to open this up for questions and maybe taking a little bit deeper dive into Anything? Okay, so got a couple questions here coming in. I'm gonna do it in the order that they arrived. So Google is number one by a huge margin. Who is number two? I am in a GI practice, so I'm interested in number two. You're the man. Um, I would say that, yeah, I fell into a little trap last night preparing this deck and was looking at the relationship between health grades, vitals, Sharecare, WebMD. So WebMD and Vitals are owned by internet brands. Sharecare is a direct mirror of Health Grades, and I think Health Grades is separate, but is also, I think, going public here very shortly via a SPAC. So they're all important in I'm not a believer that a patient is going to Health Grades or WebMD or Vitals to start the search for a physician there. What I think often happens is they, word of mouth being the best form of advertising and marketing always will be. They receive a referral from a friend, they look up that provider online, and what happens is they see they might see a low rating. So the business model of all these sites is physicians paying for sponsored listings. You'll see it on Google as well. And I always think it's funny. Oftentimes you'll see it on Google and it's promoting a listing that has a 3.6 rating with 15 reviews, and the competition in the area looks like this. And I don't think you're fooling anybody with just by making your listing appear higher. But there are situations in which I've seen a low rating on one of these sites. Everything else might look good. Google, you've had a strong focus on for the last couple of months. Locations look good and the doctors, but have been neglecting Health Grades, WebMD, and Vitals. So patients will see, okay, great on Google, but why is this doctor rated a 3.5 on Health Grades? Click on it, and before even getting to that provider's reviews that I'm interested in reading about, there are 6 physicians that are paying to sponsor the listings. They might have better reviews, they might not, but that is what we would call a break in the chain. And it's how a patient referred to you or that became aware of you from marketing and brand awareness efforts actually ends up booking an appointment with the competition. So anything that appears on the first page is important, and it is something that we can target in terms of rater rate, and we can target different review sites by provider based on their specific deficiencies. So really good question. Okay, so got another question here. Can you mention what you meant again by keyword in the business title that was against Google's best practices? Yeah, absolutely, great question. So what I was referring to is, and I will grab your email and I will send you a little blog post that we have on our website just about naming conventions and best practices around Google My Business, setting up, claiming, optimizing, etc. It's also an add-on service that we offer. If you're interested, we can also respond to reviews and do monthly location posts on each listing, which will help your score in the algorithm. What I meant though was that for a solo doctor practice, if it's just a doctor, it's only him that practices there, and the name of the practice, let's just say Premier Medical, and it's J. Telsanya. What they would recommend is that you do Premier Medical, semicolon, J.S. Telsanya, MD. Now, if there are more than 2 physicians, there should just be a location listing like we see here, OA orthopedic specialists, and then each provider should have their own listing. And oftentimes we work with groups where providers will see patients at 3 or 4 locations and therefore have 3 or 4 listings. Now, there's positives to that. You're broadening your reach. A patient in that area looking for a doctor is going to be more likely to find you than if your only listing is on the way other side of town. We know proximity is really important, but we do have that dilution of reviews then, right? A doctor, while we have a very powerful review builder, a doctor is only going to build X amount of reviews each year, let's say 150. And so if we are spreading that across 3 Google listings and need to build a couple on health grades and vitals, just dilutes it a little bit more. So it's going to take a little bit longer to build. So I hope that answers your question. If it's a solo doctor practice, the name of the practice and the doctor's name should be in the title. If it's more than 2 physicians, the locations should be separate and the doctor should be separate. The little kind of tip, or what I was saying was against Google's best practices, is following what they recommend for a solo doc practitioner. And I've seen multiple large groups do this, and just put, OA orthopedic specialists, J.S. Talsania, MD, and that is going to help. He's categorized as a hand surgeon, and he could put orthopedic surgeon as a secondary category here. That would be great. That would help. That'd be great. That'd be a good idea. But since we know keywords in the business title are so important, by putting orthopedics in there, or if you're, a cardiology group, whatever that may be, that's going to help the help your listing appear in more of those types of searches. And then we have another question for link signals. Would having referring physicians, optometry versus ophthalmology, link to our website and vice versa help build our search rankings? Referring physicians link to our, yeah. So I think if I can just kind of, wish there's an easier way to communicate with you all, but I think what you're saying is you have a link to one of your referring partners on your website and they would do the same back to you. And if that's the case, the answer would be yes, that would help. That would be a backlink there. And then you can also do your own kind of like internal, they're not backlinks because they're just links pointing at your page, but a lot of what SEO is, we're writing an article on cardiovascular stuff and we're linking to and referencing past articles that we've written so that we're trying to keep people on our page and just read more, be that knowledge base for them. So feel free to shoot me another message if that did not answer your question. And then how do you recommend getting backlinks from credible sites? It's a really good question. So I don't know of anywhere that you can necessarily like buy backlinks, and to be honest with you, it's never ever something I've looked into. So that could be another. Actually, I've got the 2 follow-ups for you. So this will be perfect. I will email you after this meeting. I would say, trying to think of where it would make sense. I mean, one would be like health grades, right? If you have your website link on health grades, that's linking to your site. Obviously, if you have a Google My Business listing, that's linking to your site, and obviously it's Google's algorithm, but I'll see in what other different ways and kind of contexts. I can't come up with any off the top of my head right now. So Roshni, I will send you an email here and follow up on those 2 questions, both great questions, so I appreciate that. Is there any benefit to using Yext over Whitespark for local citations? So I'm not familiar with their offerings specifically. I know that the overlap there is Citations, and Yext has moved into, it's like, hey, citations are becoming less relevant, so let's start building reviews and doing some of these other things. The Whitespark, I've heard, let me just say, I've never talked badly on a competitor, but I've had folks that have switched away from Yext, and I don't know if this is still the case, but from my understanding is that once you stop your contract with them, you lose the changes that they made or they revert. That might not be the case. Maybe it's just, they're not monitoring and making sure that if something does change, that it automatically reverts back. But Whitespark is one of the companies who does it. used to be Moz. So Moz is another one you can look into, M-O-Z, Moz Local. They started this Google ranking factor analysis, and Whitespark is actually the one that did it here in 2020. So I would say they're very knowledgeable and I'm sure very great people, but I wouldn't necessarily be able to tell you the benefit of one over the other. Sorry. And then looks like last question here, unless there are any others, feel free to type them in. We have 3 locations with 9 surgeons. I noticed some of your sample pictures of GMB listings. You had a specific city listed after the name of the facility. Is this something I should add to all of our 3 locations? Will this help with optimizing our GMB and searches? Example, medical practice, Bedford office. Okay, so 3 items, some of those sample pictures. Okay, so this, here. So most of these don't do it. It's flopping around on me. Like this is just Surgery Center of Allentown is their name. I have seen a lot of folks do, if it's just like, you know, OA orthopedic specialist, they will do, you know, a dash and then put the location. And I think that's an easy way for them to kind of reconcile and understand. And also, I do think it helps, especially in oftentimes or sometimes I'll find a practice where they have a location that's actually a couple different offices. Maybe they're in the same building, but they're in different suites. And so if it's that different specialties, or if one's, you know, orthopedics and one's physical therapy, there could be value in doing that in the city, like putting the city, but also just putting, you know, the office name. Essentially what the office name would be, I think would be better. The city is going to be, you know, it's going to be tied directly to your location. So if you have a specific office name or nickname for it, I don't think that would hurt, Terry, but happy to kind of dive in a little bit deeper with you on that one and um, see what we can kind of come up with, brainstorm some ideas. So I haven't seen any additional questions roll in. So I just want to go back and kind of end with the Google My Business scorecard. So completely free, give us a little leeway, and we're going to have a team member put together this comprehensive scorecard. We'll also do, if you're interested, an online reviews analysis, which will show where the doctors are at on not only Google, but Health Grades, Vitals, and WebMD. Those are the ones that we most commonly see on the first page of a search for a physician. There are some others, and we have clients who target building reviews on other sites, but that's kind of what we do for our just online review analysis. So if you're interested, a team member, me or one of my other team members, we'd be more than happy to set up a 15-minute meeting. No pressure, just we love talking about it. This is what we live and breathe every day. So you know, if reputation management is being talked about at the practice and you have questions and you just want to kind of get a snapshot of where you're currently at, I think this is a great way to do that. And if it doesn't make sense to do a demo or take any next steps, totally fine. Won't pressure you into doing so, but would be happy and grateful to connect with each and every one of you and walk you through your current state and brainstorm some ideas, share some things we think that might be able to help. And yeah. Okay. Any other questions? I think we're good. And I appreciate everyone for asking those questions. They're all great questions. Brought us right here to the end of our time. We will be sending out a follow-up email after the webinar, and it will include our recording and then basically some type of sign up. Love for you all to sign up and spend 15 minutes with me or a team member reviewing that scorecard, and just we'll provide some best tips and best practices. We've been doing this for a long time, and we work with a couple hundred groups of all different specialties. And so we can not only look at this, but also we'll do some different searches to show you, what things look like in your area, what the local competition looks like. I'm sure you're aware of them, but how do they relate in terms of online presence, and what do we have to do to beat them and start stealing their patients away, and how do we make sure that they don't do that to us? So I think we're wrapped up. So I appreciate everyone for your time today. It's good to be able to take a little bit of break from my day and talk about something that I think is super fascinating. If you have any questions following the meeting, please don't hesitate to shoot me an email or give me a call. I am more than happy to help, even if we're not formally working together. Again, I live and breathe this every day. So talking reputation management I love it. And same with the rest of my sales team here. So just let us know how we can be of help. We hope to hear back from you, and hopefully find a time to do a little scorecard review and just give you some tips and advice, and something that you can bring back to the team and kind of show them where you're at. We offer a 30-day free trial, just as kind of the last shameless sales pitch. So if you are interested, 30-day free trial of our platform, we can tell you all about that during the call, and you can trial this out. No payment information is required, and we'll build reviews and kind of show you the power of the system. But I appreciate everyone, and I hope you have a great rest of your Wednesday, and keep an eye out for an email from us shortly, and we hope to see you on our next webinar. Thank you all.